Let's read Proverbs 6 today. We're going to get a lot of different lessons for daily life. Starting in verse 1, he says, "My child, if you have put up security for a friend's debt or agreed to guarantee the debt of a stranger," he says, "follow my advice, save yourself, swallow your pride, go and beg to have your name erased." So there's just some real practical financial advice. Don't make bad loans, right? What great advice. And we scroll down to verse 6. He's going to pivot and give another piece of practical advice. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. So now he's talking about the biblical value of discipline and hard work. Boy, that's a great one to share with a young person today. And then as we scroll to verse 12, we get a little bit more. He says, "What are worthless and wicked people like? They're constant liars, signaling their deceit with a wink of the eye, a nudge of the foot, or the wiggle of the toes." And so he's pivoting here to this section in verse 16, where he talks about 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that he detests. And you can count them off on your own fingers. He says, haughty eyes, number 1, a lying tongue, number 2, hands that kill the innocent, number 3. By the way, you can compare these to the 10 commandments. There's obviously some overlap there. He says, number 4, a heart that plots evil. Number 5, feet that race to do wrong. Number 6, a false witness who pours out lies once again. And number 7, a person who sows discord in a family. Well, take a look at those 7 things that the Lord hates and stay away from them, because this is timeless wisdom from the book of Proverbs. And then he's going to talk in verse 20 to his, once again, to a son or a daughter. He says, obey your father's commands. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. So he sort of zooms out now here. And again, he's just talking about sort of the overall purpose of the book of Proverbs. Be obedient. Listen to this great, practical, ageless wisdom. And if you keep this wisdom in mind, then it will go well, for you for a long, long time. And as you scroll down a little bit further, now he's going to end this section talking about sexual immorality, which really is a timeless thing to be learning about. He says in verse 30, excuses might be found for a thief who steals because he's starving, but if he's caught, he must pay back 7 times what he stole. But look at what he says, verse 32, and this is what he's getting to. This whole section at the bottom is all about this last thing, verse 32. The man who commits adultery is an utter fool, and he destroys himself. In other words, I guess you can make an excuse if there's a reason to steal. And he's not saying you should go steal, but hey, you could understand practically maybe the reason to take food, even though you're going to be punished in the court of the land if you do it. But he says there is no reason whatsoever. It is utter foolishness to commit adultery. And that's how the author leaves us right there on that note. And so now you're ready to read Proverbs chapter 6. We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 7.